How to glow up as a jewelry artist and become better at your craft is what I want to talk to you about today in this video. My name is Basia, and on this channel we talk all things jewelry making, jewelry metalsmithing, etc. I hope you will enjoy this video and the tips I will share with you today. And the first one that I want to start with is extremely important, and I think it can actually make a massive difference. So let's get started. Why should they care? This is an extremely important question you should ask yourself when making posts and content and communicating with your audience. It's not to ignore your need for artistic expression. Of course, you can and should post whatever feels natural and whatever you want and whatever you need. But considering why your audience follows you and what they would love to see from you is very important, especially if you're trying to get a response from that audience and probably find prospective customers. In my case, I noticed that every time I post about inspiration behind my jewelry, I get better engagement on these posts and more people respond to me. That's great because writing about that inspiration comes naturally to me. It's organic because there's already tons of inspiration and reasons why I created my designs and collections. So I think that's what's interesting for people. I don't have to guess what would they like to see. I don't have to force anything, any subjects or topics. I just talk about my work, but in a way that would be interesting for people. Maybe there are some legends that inspired a piece of work, but then I'm not just gonna mention that legend. I will explain it a little bit in an interesting way that catches people's attention. And after realizing why people follow my work, they follow it for jewelry, for those designs, they are more interested in hearing about the inspiration. You can focus on why you use certain gemstones in your work, why you pair them with certain designs. There might be things that might seem uninteresting to you because this is your daily job now, but it may not be that obvious for other people who have no idea what goes into creating those designs and how you use your imagination and inspiration in your work. Filter your posts through this mindset of why people should care about your post, your video, your photo, the information you share. Anything you put out there, you can apply this rule to. And you may start noticing changes. It's possible that your content was not getting much attention in the past because people were just glossing over it because they thought it's not for them. I try to use this as a rule now. Whenever I'm writing down ideas for posts and videos and photos, I always try to see it through the lens of why should people care about this? Does it bring some value to people? Like, why should they care? What's in it for them? Because my work is not just showing my art to the world. I also want to educate and give value. It's very important for me that people will find it useful. And I also want to attract potential customers. So it is essential that what I put out is focused on them rather than on me. It's much easier to create content that's focused on us. We are in our own heads. We know our thoughts. We know our motivation. So we could talk for hours about ourselves. What's interesting for us. But that's the tricky part. We have to think about others first and foremost if we want to get their response and interest from them. It's much easier for humans, for us to talk about ourselves, our motivation, ideas, and inspiration. But then not everyone will care, and that's okay, and that's totally normal. You can still share a photo of your pet, especially if your audience are pet lovers and animal lovers. But be mindful of how much of your personal life and unrelated things you share on your social media and platforms platforms, because it might get to the point where people will start losing interest, and that might be the good moment to dial it down a bit, or even earlier, before they lose interest. Just don't get to that point. So to recap this point, create your content with the mindset and the question in mind: why should people care? Why do they follow you, and why should they care about this post? I hope this will be helpful. Now, this next point is about investing, but hear me out. It's about investing in better tools. As you grow, your tools will grow with you. Cheap or basic tools are great when you're starting out, but upgrading to high quality tools can make a huge difference in precision, efficiency, and the final finish of your pieces. It's not just about buying expensive tools, but choosing those that will make a difference in your craft. For example, quality pliers or files, or a pendant motor with a flex shaft, or a bezel pusher that doesn't damage the bezel. If some cleanup is still required and you need to smooth out the bezel around the gem and remove marks, make sure you're using proper accessories to do that. For example, Eve pumice wheels, which are usually safer on the stones. Sometimes you may find yourself investing in different tools because of the comfort. Like I mentioned, flex shaft, for example. You'll be able to work more comfortably for longer, which in turn can help you achieve more precise results. Speaking of quality tools and materials, this video is actually sponsored by Rio Grande, which is one of the biggest and most trusted suppliers that I've been sharing with you for years. And you can imagine my excitement when I saw a message from Rio that they would like to partner with me and support this channel. It's amazing. And they very kindly offered a code for you, which is METALART, to use at checkout when you make a purchase for $20 off shipping. So make sure when you place your order to use this code at checkout. And it is active until 15th of May. This next point is about progressing to quality over quantity in regards to gemstones. Okay, so you're a jeweler. Perhaps you started by yourself or you completed a course. Whatever the case might be, it's possible that you started with smaller budget and therefore cheaper stones. Cheaper stones, of course, are not inherently bad, but of course their quality probably won't be outstanding. They're perfect for practice and offer less expensive pieces, which are still wonderful and have fantastic value. However, if you want to elevate your work and achieve more professional looking designs, I do recommend purchasing less but better quality gems. They sell themselves and they speak for themselves. It's something I've realized over time, that no matter how intricate the design, how well thought out and unique, the stone can dim the overall effect, if not bring it all down in some cases. Not to mention the pieces where the stone is actually the main focus and not just an addition. Quality over quantity also applies to jewelry pieces themselves. Instead of aiming to produce as many pieces for the collection as possible, try to make less but spend that extra time on making sure each element is perfectly finished. And I don't mean it has to be perfect. On the contrary, handmade offers what machines never can: a human touch and originality to each piece. What I mean are wonky or chipped bezels, funky wires, fire stain, visible excess solder you haven't cleaned, cracked or chipped stones, or metal sheet that's too thin for the design. I myself had to realize that if you use thin metal, it may not look as good, that using thicker metal will make your pieces look more solid, more professional, more valuable. And well, they are, because more metal means more value. Some designs require thinner metal, so of course it is all about being mindful and choosing appropriate thickness to the design. You could try layers instead of going for a single layer, which creates dimension and adds attractiveness. You know, this next point, you've heard it a million times, but I have to say it because once you realize it, really realize it, it really hits you hard. Practice, 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 practice your skills. Spend extra time on perfecting things like soldering, filing, finishing, polishing, stone setting. These are basics and they make or break your design. When this is perfected, your work will look more solid and more professional. Plus, which I think is a massive bonus, you'll spend less time fixing mistakes, which extends production time, and not every mistake can be fixed. I think polishing especially is worth spending extra time on and learning and perfecting to understand what are those different attachments, what they are used for, the solutions, the compounds. So it's worth experimenting with them and seeing what kind of finishes you can achieve with each of them. There are tons of different attachments alone. Brushes, wheels, silicone, pumice, cotton. There's just so many of them. So there is this misconception that you need to be using all of them in some sort of order and then you'll achieve that desired result. And that's not true. You use certain ones in a particular order to sand and clean the metal, pre-polish and polish. You can create different finishes like high polish, satin, cross satin, brushed, matte, circle matte, etc. So yeah, learning about it and perfecting it will make massive difference when it comes to your work, trust me. This point is actually about how to present your work. Presenting your work is a massive skill that you need to have if you want to show people your work and if you want to interest them. You should be able to take photos that do your work justice instead of dimming its light. You could be making the most beautiful jewelry and art in the world, but if your photos don't do it justice, it will be very hard to attract attention, especially in the era of short form content, short attention span, and brutal algorithms. This point is not about investing in special equipment, although a good camera makes a massive difference. That's just how it is. But what I mean to emphasize here is learning basic photography skills, especially natural lighting, clean backgrounds, and simple editing, which can go a long way. Good presentation makes your pieces look more valuable and professional. The main ones would be to avoid clutter. A clean background is always better than tons of elements that fight for your attention. I've heard this tip so many times and it's just brilliant because that's how it is. You scroll right past that photo because there's just too much happening and you have no idea what you should be looking at. And that happens especially if your camera doesn't offer that bokeh effect where the background is blurred and the element in the front is focused. With the standard camera, if that's what you have to remove those elements and ideally make the element that you're presenting sharp and clear and in focus. And another point that really helps me personally is stepping away from social media, but without disconnecting completely. Unfortunately, it's not something I can afford to do because it is part of my business. It's how I connect with all of you, with my audience, with my customers. But stepping away a little bit and especially not going into that discovery feed is so important because we compare ourselves all the time. We forget that at any given moment, our minds trick us because we suddenly feel like we're competing with the entire world, because we are connected to the entire world. You see so many artists, and every person is different. Some people will be way more productive than you are. Their circumstances will allow them to be more productive, more creative. There could be so many differences between us, but what do? We feel bad about ourselves. We compare ourselves. It's really damaging. And I've been suffering because of this for quite a while. I wasn't as happy with my art as I used to be. And I realized that it is mostly due to comparison. I thought I should be more productive, just more. Without completely realizing my personal circumstances and the fact that it's all a trap. These apps are designed in a way to keep you on them, to make you addicted to dopamine hits and this comparison, feeling bad and awful. You may have seen the dopamine detox going around internet. And honestly, yeah, it's worth doing that. I've hidden my apps that I still need to access, but I don't want to compulsively enter on a daily basis, in separate folders on my phone. So when I turn on my phone, I don't see them instantly. So I don't feel tempted to go in there instantly. And the second step is that when I am in the app, for example, Instagram, I really do my best not to click on that magnifying glass, to go to the discovery feed, to just browse. You don't have to keep saving those posts. You don't need another inspiration. You already have millions of them. Go to the folder where you've saved so much, because I know you did, and take one thing and create whatever you wanted to create, not copying. We don't do that. But create whatever you wanted to create based on that inspiration that you saw, or that technique that you saved and wanted to try. I honestly procrastinated so much with so many things. Where did that time and energy go? Tell me. And who made money because of that? Not me. So yeah, this is just a reminder. It's okay, and your apps will still be there. You will get that energy back and happiness back to create and produce beautiful work, because you are an artist and a creator first and foremost. And then you're a content creator. Take breaks and avoid burnout. It might sound counterintuitive, but stepping away from the bench is part of glowing up too, actually. It's incredibly important to make time for rest, for your hobbies or activities outside of jewelry making. You'll come back refreshed, and often with new ideas you wouldn't have discovered if you'd been grinding non-stop. I like to go to museums, watch movies, Korean and Japanese vlogs. They always just make me feel a certain way, just more creative. I love to listen to music while scrolling on Instagram, on Pinterest, not on Instagram, on Pinterest. Looking at beautiful things, often decor or fashion and prints and artworks. It just makes me very excited and instantly helps me think of what I would like to create, how I would like to turn certain inspirations into accessories, into jewelry. Just taking a break, walking away from jewelry making, from creating your art for a bit can be very beneficial. So I know there's tons of more points that I could have shared today. So maybe there will be like a part 2 of this video, maybe more technicalities that you would like me to focus on. Let me know in the comments if you have some ideas of how someone might glow up as a maker. Maybe you would have some tips for us. And also let me know if you'd like to hear more, and I will try to make that video. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!